In this video, we will be discussing point file formats. If you would like to follow along with this video, please open the file 0303 pointfileformats.dwg located in the training folder as discussed in the Working with this Dataset video. Civil 3D allows you to save point file formats in your drawing template that you can use to import ASCII text files into Civil 3D to translate that information into Civil 3D as point objects. You can define what each column should designate, for example, northing, easting, point number, raw description, elevation, etc., and save this in the template as a point file format. The point file format is located in the Settings tab under the Point category, and then we have point file formats. Let's go ahead and look at an example of the PNEZD, delimited point file format. I'll simply double-click here, and this opens up the point file format dialog box. The first thing to note is that you can define a default file extension for your point file format. In this case, it's .txt. If you get a lot of .csv files instead, you could change the default file extension to .csv. Point file formats also give you the ability to do a coordinate zone transformation. If a coordinate zone is defined in the drawing, you can simply toggle this on and then select a different coordinate zone, and it'll automatically transform those coordinates, the current coordinate zone defined in the DWG file. The columns are located here as to what each column should be. To change what a column should be, simply select it, and then from the column name drop-down, you can select from a variety of different values that you can use to import Civil 3D points. As you can see here, we have point number, northing, easting, point elevation, and raw description defined as our columns. If you would like to see a sample file loaded into the dialog box, simply click the Load button, select your file, and then click the Parse button to upload it into the column designation area. There are also some additional settings to allow it to read no more than a certain set of points so that Civil 3D will stop loading the point file should it get to too many points. And you can sample a specific set of lines based on the value you define in here. This concludes this video discussing point file formats. In this video, we will discuss importing points. If you would like to follow along with the video, please open the file 0304 importingpoints.dwg located in the training folder as discussed in the Working with this Dataset video. In addition to this file, we will also use a point file located in the training folder, survey subfolder, points-eg.csv. Civil 3D enables you to import many types of files based on various point file formats. As discussed earlier, you can create your own point file formats to accommodate the necessary file formats. Before we import the file, let's talk about some of the point settings you need to be aware of. If I navigate to the Settings tab, Point category, and I right-click on the point category and go to Edit Feature Settings, you will notice that there are default settings that you need to be aware of before importing points. In addition to the feature settings, there are additional command settings that you also need to be aware of. In the Create Points command setting, I will right-click on here, select Edit Command Settings. You'll notice that under the Points Creation and Default Layer category, there are some default settings you really need to be aware of and make sure you check them out, especially the default layer. If the raw code does not match a layer in the description key, this layer will be used to place the point on. To import points, navigate to the Insert tab, Import Panel, Points from File command. In the Import Points dialog box, simply select the Add Files button and select the files that you want to import into Civil 3D. Note, you can select more than one file at a time if you need to. Then select the appropriate point file format. In this case, it's a PNEZD, point, northing, easting, elevation, and description, delimited. And it'll give you a nice little checkbox that tells you this point file format does match the point that you have selected. Note, you can also add a point file to a point group. This is useful if you are importing multiple files based on different survey days, let's say, and you want to add those survey days to a simple point group to be able to turn them on or off. Also, if the elevation column is defined in the point file format, elevation adjustments are possible if you toggle this on. The same thing goes for a coordinate transformation. As long as you have a coordinate zone defined in the point file format and that is toggled on, it will do a coordinate transformation if possible. Click OK. and Civil 3D imports your points. Notice that some of the points appear to not have any label styles associated to them. I have set this up on purpose to show you that this may occur to you. The problem is, if I look to my description keys, you'll notice that the point label style column is set to default. The style column is pretty much setting up all the different points that should be brought in with the appropriate symbol. And the layer column, of course, is defining what layer those points should go on. If you right-click on the All Points point group and go to Properties, you will notice that because those description keys are set to default, the point label style defined by the All Points point group is set to None. And this is the one that has priority as it is on top of the list here. I'll simply change this here and toggle on and set it to the point elevation description label style. Click OK. Now all my points will appear with their point label style. This concludes the video discussing importing points. In this video, we will discuss reviewing point data. If you would like to follow along with the video, please open the file 0305 reviewingpointdata.dwg located in the training folder as discussed in the Working with this Dataset video. Civil 3D provides great reviewing capabilities for point data. To review point data, you can use the panorama window, review pane in the tool space, or the properties palette. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tool space. First, I'll select my points category in the Prospector tab, and I'll review my points. So as you can see here, you can simply navigate the Prospector tab, and using the scroll button or the middle mouse button, you can navigate and view the different points in your drawing. Note that these columns are completely sortable, and you can add columns by right-clicking on the column header. This functionality is very common for all column headers within Civil 3D. This is a really good way to see if you have any points at, let's say, 0 elevation. I'll simply click on that to sort by it, and you'll notice that the lowest elevation that is selected here is 77.46. As we scroll through here, you can see the different elevations for the additional points as well. Another way to review points is to select them individually within your drawing and use the panorama window. Let's go ahead and zoom into my file, and I'll select a few points within my drawing. And in the contextual Cocoa Points ribbon, I can select the Edit List Points tool. This opens up the panorama window and opens up the point editor vista. You'll notice that all of the points that I have selected are contained within. I can select multiple by simply doing a window selection, or select individually by pressing the Control key on the keyboard to make any edits that I need to. In addition to this, you can simply right-click on here and you can zoom to a specific point to review it and make sure you're selecting the correct one. Again, don't forget the scroll bars to see the rest of the point properties. And you can also right-click on here and add or remove columns should you so desire. Lastly, you can use the Properties palette. I'll still keep the same selection. I'll navigate to the Properties palette, and whatever common properties are available for points, I can simply navigate and change them. If I want to select one point, I will just press Escape, select one point, go to the Properties palette, and there are all the point property. This concludes this video discussing reviewing point data.